The Porch Diary podcast. Welcome to the special edition of the Porch Diary podcast, where black sheep become goats, with me, Masabe Thathane-Tyolweni. Today, I am not alone. I bring a guest from motherland, South Africa, my brother, my womb mate, Lesego Thathane. Welcome, Lesego.
Hello. I want to greet my sister. It's been a pleasure having her here, and I want to greet the listeners of the Porch Diaries. I am, as Sabe said, the younger brother. My name is Lesego Thathane-Tyolweni.
This special edition is entitled When the Bones Speak, as Siblings remembers. We are gathered not just in place, but also in spirit, not just in blood, but in calling. This is a conversation between generations, between belief and memory, between brother and sister. So sit back and let us talk about faith and ancestors. Sego, we've been through a lot, you and I, some things that we didn't understand and couldn't name. But I just wonder, when did you first sense something beyond the physical?
Yeah, so it has been quite a journey, especially the last 3 years. But to answer your question, actually a lot longer than one would expect. I think I was around 5 years old in this very house when I would offer libations to God and Spirit that I would feel, sense, and hear. But there was a moment, I think, in my life where when we left here, where it did stop.
I never knew that about you. But anyway, so how were dreams involved? Were you afraid? How did all these things make you feel?
It's difficult to put into words, especially because it's been for so long. But moments of deja vu have always been in my life. I think one of the biggest fears that I've always held was I will one day dream of my own death. Thank God that hasn't happened yet. But I've had vivid dreams throughout my entire life, and I think I've gotten used to them. What's different now, I think, is they're more pointed and leading to a particular direction, which is scary for me, because I think the things that are being asked, not only of me, but of you, are very alien and very foreign to us, because we were not raised in a really culturally strong household.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were born baptized Methodist. I went through Jehovah's Witnesses with grandma. I've gone through the Apostolic Church with the other grandparents. So how did the Christian language shape or suppress that knowing for you?
Oh my gosh. I first of all, I mean, as a young child, I did not have an understanding of what spiritual or ancestral sort of worship was. Like you said, we were raised in the church our whole lives. I went from Methodist to Baptist to Catholic to what do they call the New Age? Pentecostal churches. Yeah. And all of a sudden, at 40 years old, you are confronted with an ancestral calling, and you have absolutely no idea or context of what that means for you. So how did the Christian faith shape that? To be honest with you, it gave absolutely no direction or space. It held no space for us. Our father was a pastor. Our maternal grandfather was a bishop. And my sister is a minister. You know, so church and Christianity have been all we have known our entire lives. But before I hand it back to you, sis, I will say that I will admit to having had doubts in my Christian walk, especially over the last couple of years. And I think that gave room, actually, to listen to the ancestral voices that came. And you have to tell me, how has this journey been for you? As I said, you're a minister. It's very different for me. You hold office in the institution. So what does that look like for you?
Do you know, I think I'm grateful for my learning that I've done recently, working on my MA on Black theology, and kind of now the whole conversation about who wrote the Bible that we read, who was it written for, and what was the context, and to know that there are things where the Bible has been weaponized. Apartheid was rooted in the Bible. Slavery was made right through the text of the Bible. Absolutely. And yet, we talk about a God who is partial to the oppressed and the marginalized. And with our history and upbringing and knowing that for us to be colonized as Black people, this was a weapon. Absolutely. So there is something about reclaiming the language of the Bible and rereading it differently. I read it from a womanist perspective, a feminist perspective, and I question a lot now. And to be honest with you, the death of our oldest brother, which was years ago, the passing of some relatives that I would see before they passed, and I'd call mom and say, oh, where's Uncle So? And she says, oh, he's just died. That is where I said there is something beyond the me.
Absolutely.
And now what I am doing is, if God of the Jews said, I am God of Abraham and Jacob and all of that, if I am to follow the same God, I need to be able to say, God of the Thathanes, God of the Tyolwenis, God of Amangosini, Barulung, Bakwena. I have to have a rooting.
And the language.
In that language. I have to use my own people so that I can know that God knows me. So that has been the shift for me. Sikho, in this journey we have embraced nature, earth, wind, fire, water. I know I love the ocean. It shifts. I go into the ocean and the waves move differently. So what does it mean to both feel and name this presence openly for you?
It's been very empowering, actually. We had a conversation when you just arrived, and I was saying the one thing I really, really appreciate about the umbrella term of African spirituality is that it requires active participation. There isn't an intermediary who burns in paper for me. There isn't somebody else who will light candles on my behalf. It requires me to actively want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go pray. Whether Emsamo or Atlanti, it actively requires me to go to the waters, to the river, to spend time in that space. I don't need a pastor or a preacher to baptize me. I personally walk into the water and take myself, and I acknowledge the owners of those spaces. I did not have that sort of agency in church. And I'm not saying there is no space for conventional Christian belief, but I think we need to relook at our relationship, as you said earlier, with the level of participation in the church space, whether it is as an active agent of it or through a pastor who preaches to you, but not, speaking to or conversation that you are able to have. So for me, it is that. But what I've always wondered about you, Sape, is how do you stand as a preacher of the Methodist faith and burn in Beppo when you get home? How does that work for you?
It is something that I think, rooted in our understanding now of who we are. Most of our church faiths burn incense. We use frankincense, myrrh, and whatever to acknowledge that Jesus Christ was given those gifts, was embalmed in those things by the women when he died. It is something that has been done, but I guess the problem was when the missionaries first came, they cast all of those things and demonized them. And what I am doing is reclaiming them, reclaiming the fact that we say, let our worship rise like an incense. So why don't burn the incense? Why not light the candles and honor as the other people did, to say we call on the God of, the God who led us out of bondage, the God who still walks with us, you know, with Christ as the intercessor. But we talk about a cloud of witnesses, isn't it? And that cloud of witness includes our grandparents, our uncle, our brothers, our mom and dad. So unless I can do that, I can't continue to do this, to be honest with you. You know, and God in Paul's letter says we have been given gifts of the Spirit, and you and I,
It's been right.
we have terrible,
been,
well, we have awesome gifts.
It's
You know,
just
we
getting
have
to know them.
awesome gifts.
Yeah.
You're a seer. You see, you hear, and I heal. You know, and this has manifested itself even in England. I've got people coming and say, and you know, oh, shall we talk about what happened last night? That little boy that came to visit.
Come on.
So, friends, we had a relative come and visit, and they had this teenage boy come with them, and he wasn't speaking, you know, and the relative said, oh, no, this is a sign language person. So I signed to greet him and to welcome him to our home. But then something shifted in my spirit, and I went to my brother and my sister-in-law. I say, that boy can both hear and that boy can talk. So after a little while, I go to the boy, and I don't know what happened. And I just signed to him that he and I need to pray. And he nodded. And after a while, I offered him a drink. I said, what cool drink would you like? And the boy spoke and said, Coke. And I said, so you can hear? And he nods. And I said, and you do speak, obviously. And he said, yes. And from that point, he was talking to me. So he was a selective mute. But I wonder then in my spirit, what has happened to him that makes him so selective?
Yeah, when he came into the house, actually, my son offered him the Xbox. And I don't play Xbox a lot, but there's certain things that you pick up when I was watching him. For example, the game that he was playing requires you to actually be able to hear. And I could see the way he was playing the game, that he was very aware of the audio cues that he was being given. And even when I prodded him or sought his attention, he could hear me perfectly and he would respond. But it was just an interesting experience to have, because his parents were adamant that he was partially deaf and just did not speak. So that was an experience yesterday. But we've had many such experiences, and I think if we were to talk about all of them, we would be here all day. But I would want to hear from my sister how she experienced our imbeleko. I will leave her to tell you, her listeners, what imbeleko is and the significance of it in our culture. We are amaXhosa okabotiti babantu bomlambo.
Imbeleko is like a birthing ritual where a child, usually done at a very young age, is brought into the family, is named, and there is slaughtering of an animal that happens. There is the naming and the introduction of the child to the ancestors. Now, we had ours a couple of years ago because of what had happened in the relationships between grandparents, parents, and which has left a burden on us who are now remaining. Yeah. So we invited our Xhosa aunties that still remain and the Sotho-Tswana relatives to come and help us to bring together these two names, these two families. And oh my goodness, one of my cousin sisters started drama claiming to embody a particular spirit and saying, no, they're rejecting this and this. And there was almost like an outer body experience where through me, the mother of this,
our great-grandmother, maternal great-grandmother,
kind of said, listen, you stop this nonsense now. And it's just being not aware until you come out and everybody says, wait, what happened there? But it's been an amazing journey, because I think for us, it's kind of opened up that sense of listening, not just with our ears,
Definitely.
Rooting us into listening and seeing the signs and knowing what it means to ignore them now.
And the consequences thereof. I think for me, what's really, really been amazing is my ability now to appreciate those who have walked this journey before us. Because until you do walk it for yourself, everything that we could tell you would sound fantastical and made
Probably
up.
does to some of the listeners now.
Yeah, but having experienced it, I used to struggle, for example, with public transport, where at a particular time, almost every single day, I would have my own sort of spiritual awakening where the spirit, I guess, that I hold and embodies me would need attention at a particular time every single day. And it was such a thing, you know. I mean, my wife would have to deal with me when we are having to use public transport to get to and from work. The same evening that my sister referred to of Lesego, that's when I also had my first sort of out-of-body experience. And when you come out of it and people are telling you what you said, or you have your own recollections of little snippets of it, it just sounds almost impossible. But here we are, living it almost every day.
I think what has been amazing with us is kind of being able to sense each other's feelings and moods and stuff like that. Because if I'm down, you ring almost instantly and say, what's going on?
Yeah.
Or if there's something with you, I kind of reach out and, you know, and I think and being able to connect, thankfully, to technology and to pray together, you know, to sit on video and light candle and to remember Mama, Baba, Zo, Mungi, all of them together has made this so much easier.
Yeah,
you know.
I think if this conversation doesn't go too much longer, we must tell them about the bee incident.
No, we're not going to go there. I think we need another episode of this because it is a lot, isn't it?
It is.
We've just touched the surface. There's been so much that has happened. But, you know, we hold reverence for both the Christian values that we have been given, but we hold it with a sense of questioning. And we honor our ancestors. We don't worship them, but we recognize that we carry their DNA. And therefore, if they are part of that cloud of witnesses, they also stand in the gap with and for us in God. And this has helped to shape our view of God and our closeness as family. We've lost a lot of people, you know.
The last 3 years have been
rough. It's been. And now where death is painful, and I came here this time around because of a death, you know, but it kind of like seeing it as, yes, it sucks, but at the same time, it opens up a new portal, you know, and to now live and reclaim this legacy of who we are and to find a broader family. I mean, every time we say Singokaba, we find new people. You know, it's been amazing. It really has. So listen, I think we're going to pause here for today, and then we will carry on this conversation because there is a lot that we can do. But I just want to end up by saying, in doing this, we ensure that our children will not be ashamed to light a candle. Our grandchildren will know their great-grandmothers' names, and they will stand firmly rooted in who they are.
And before we sign off, I mean, this has also had a huge impact on our kids, and I think that's also another conversation that we would need to bring in. But one of the things that this journey has allowed us to do is that we've been able to find our surname back almost to the late 19th century. 1700s, which is something that we would have never had the opportunity to do had not been for this journey. So that's another thing that I've really, really enjoyed doing. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity to share this with my sister and to share that with all of you. So I just want to say in closing, Kamaku.
We remember. We are becoming. Catch you next time on the second part of this conversation, where black sheep become goats, the greatest of all time. The Porch Diary Podcast.